Shedeur Sanders' NFL debut marred by home break-in during game, AP News. You ever have one of those days where everything that could go sideways does, and somehow the highlight reel and the lowlight reel run at the same time? That was Shedeur Sanders' Sunday. Making his NFL debut under stadium lights while, miles away, 3 masked thieves walked into his home, grabbed roughly $200,000 in stuff in about 12 minutes, and left. The timing felt like a punchline no one wanted to laugh at. Reuters, here's the part that makes you shake your head. Shedeur didn't lead with anger or melodrama. He laughed about it. At a press moment later in the week, he said he's in a mental space where not much phases him, then grinned and added, "By the way, none of my jewelry got took." It's a line that's equal parts relief and bravado. A rookie quarterback trying to keep the news cycle from turning into a panic attack. People.com. Let's rewind to the field because that's where careers get written. Sanders got the call when Dillon Gabriel left with a concussion. He finished 4 for 16 for 47 yards with an interception, was sacked twice, fumbled, and posted a passer rating that screamed rookie night. It was, by the numbers, a rough debut. But the optics, camera cuts to him on the sideline, then to social feeds about the break-in, made an already tough night feel surreal. Reuters. There are 2 stories here running on parallel rails. The human story and the headline story. The human story is simple and ugly. A young man trying to make a life and a living, shaken by the idea that strangers rifled through his space while he was doing his job. The headline story is messier and louder. A viral reaction loop that mixes sympathy, schadenfreude, and the kind of micro takedowns Twitter loves. Shedeur's response, calm, a little cocky, strangely unbothered, is part deflection and part emotional management. People watch athletes like they're public property. A measured reaction buys you time and maybe dignity. ABC News Now, the practical details matter. Medina County deputies say the suspects were masked and gloved, entered through an unsecured rear door, and were in and out in roughly a dozen minutes. That's the "it could happen to anyone" chill. An unlocked door and a bad decision by the wrong people. Police described the break-in as calculated, and the images from surveillance show the thieves carrying out gear with the efficiency of professionals, which is why investigators took the case seriously from the start. ABC News. Back to the field. How do coaches and teammates handle this? First, you separate the thing you can influence from the thing you can't. Coaches will say they're focused on the install, the next opponent, fundamentals. Teammates will rally around the guy who just had his private life violated. But the public also wants drama. Is this a distraction? Will it affect his focus? Will it be used as ammunition against him in narratives that label him soft or unprepared? The answer is both yes and no, because human beings are complicated and sports are a magnifying glass. Fox Sports. Let's be honest about optics and second chances. Shedeur's dad, Deion Sanders, didn't make it a headline grab. He framed it like a character moment, praising his son's mental toughness and suggesting a lesser man might have crumbled. That fatherly endorsement matters. It isn't just sentiment. It's reassurance to the league, to coaches, to sponsors, that this is a person with a support system and mental resilience. That doesn't erase the mistakes on the stat sheet, but it pushes the narrative toward growth instead of doom. People.com, there's a broader pattern worth flagging. We've seen high-profile athletes targeted at home before, the Mahomes and the Kelsey episodes, for example, and the Sanders break-in sits inside a worrying trend. Visibility plus wealth, public life, was vulnerability. That tension has been part of pro sports forever, but the social media era ratchets it up. Players who show off assets become walking targets. Teams and players must adapt with better security, smarter social sharing, and old-fashioned caution. Fans love access and glimpses into players' lives, but when that access creates risk, someone eventually pays the price. ABC News, here's the twist most people miss. This moment could be a soft reset for Shedeur. We judge athletes harshly on their first bad game, but quarterbacks, more than any position, are allowed, sometimes rewarded for growth arcs. If he uses the publicity to tighten focus, to lean on a disciplined preparation routine, and to let performance replace chatter, this weekend becomes a bump, not a scar. If he lets himself be defined by the robbery or by the stat line, the narrative hardens into something harder to shake. Sports history is full of players who turned rocky starts into resilience narratives. Fox Sports. What should fans do with all this? Stop reflexively amplifying the worst takes. Give the kid a chance to respond on the field. Demand accountability where it matters. Better security, smarter vetting of who gets access to players' private lives, but don't conflate theft with failure to perform. Sympathy and skepticism can coexist. We can criticize a rough game and still balk at people sneaking into homes. It's possible to hold both positions without the moral posturing that fills comment sections. AP News Now for the practical forecast. Dillon Gabriel will go through concussion protocol. If he's out, Shedeur might get another start. That's scary and thrilling in equal measure. Coaches will tweak the game plan to protect their young QB, quicker passes, more rolling pockets, higher percentage plays, and the offense will try to keep things simple so his confidence rebuilds play by play. The immediate next few games aren't the defining arc. The next season might be. But how he responds now will tell you everything you need to know about his temperament. Roeder's final thought. You can't control what strangers do, but you can control how you answer. Shedeur's line about the necklace not being taken, equal parts humor and relief, wasn't a throwaway. It was a choice about image and focus and narrative control. If he keeps choosing the right answers and pressers in practice in what he posts online, the burglary becomes a headline in a chapter he closes fast. If not, it becomes the lead. That's the bargain of being young, famous, and under the lights. Every moment is a test. The real victory is passing the next one. You ever have one of those days where life feels like it's being edited in real time? Shedeur Sanders lived one of them. He took his first regular season snaps under the stadium lights, felt the pressure of pro defenses, and by the time the final whistle blew, he also had to face the awful news that someone had rifled through his home and walked out with roughly $200,000 worth of stuff. The collision of a rookie's brutal afternoon and a personal violation made the moment feel less like sports drama and more like a life test. Reuters. When reporters asked him about it a few days later, he answered in a way that was equal parts defiance and relief. I'm in a mental space now to where it's not too much that could faze me, he said, then cracked a grin and added the line that will stick. By the way, none of my jewelry got took. That little laugh, the jewelry bit, is more than bravado. It's a coping mechanism. He's young, public, and already learning how to draw a perimeter between what headlines can take and what stays inside one's skin. People.com. On the field, the rookie afternoon was exactly the kind of rough schooling you expect when a player is asked to perform before the practice reps are in the bank. He went 4 for 16 for 47 yards with an interception and 2 sacks. The box score looks unforgiving, and the tape will be blunt. But the film also shows near misses.